good to actually catch up with former NBA referee Tim Donaghy. And, again, 13-year vet. Also created refpicks.com. Check him out online for all you gamblers out there and the handicappers, if you will. You want your fill, you can definitely check out refpicks.com. We'll get his thoughts on that a little later on in the interview. But, Tim, good to catch up with you. How you been?
I'm doing great, pal. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's been I'll tell you what, the last time, and I'll tell you how we're dating ourselves. It was right after the 60 Minutes interview that we spoke at great length on the air. And it's funny because you watch what happens the other night in the game between San Antonio and the Thunder. And let me just ask you this. As a guy that repped in the NBA for 13 years, forget about the non-calls. That whole sequence, I mean, how many botched non-calls were in that sequence the other night?
It's unbelievable when you start to look at it from beginning to end. Ginobili steps over the line, the elbow from the inbounder, the fact that the clock starts a second early, and then from there, all mayhem begins, and several things were missed. So it's just a situation where it's 13 seconds that I'm sure the NBA wishes they had back.
Yeah, and we've seen that. Again, this year there have been some ticky-tacky, some dicey, some inconsistent calls. Now, again, the big story is your statement on as far as the gambling in the NBA. And we'll get it on the air. We'll get it on the record right now. As a former ref, when you look at the state of the NBA and you look at NBA referees, and we'll get to what transpired a couple years ago with David Stern saying, okay, you can't really bet anymore, but what's the percentage? In your eyes right now as we speak on this May 5th, what's the percentage that you're aware of that NBA referees bet on sporting events, but also I want to get your thoughts on if you believe NBA referees actually bet on current NBA games?
It's 100%. When you talk about referees and going to the casino, betting on the golf course, betting on football games, NCAA pools, everybody did it from top to bottom. And that's where David Stern really put his foot in his mouth when he went on ESPN and said, legal gambling will cost you your job, and illegal gambling will cost you your freedom. And, from there, they did an investigation and figured out that, they had a major problem and needed to change the rules because they couldn't fire everybody. So it's a situation where, just like anything, gambling is very prevalent in the world, and it's definitely prevalent within the NBA officiating circles.
Do you think current NBA referees gamble on games that they officiate or games that they watch as casual fans?
I think it's hard for me to make that conclusion and say that, they're betting on NBA games, or they may be telling their buddy, this is what the league wants us to crack down on, this is what we're going to do, and is it putting one team at an advantage or a disadvantage? Yeah, I think those conversations go on all the time. So, who's ever taking that information, I'm sure, is placing bets with that and being able to make a lot of money.
But still, then, when you say that, though, Tim, that's, again, when you look at there's the lack of a moral compass in that regard and character, to me, that's just as bad as flat out calling up the bookie and putting a game on the Knicks versus Celtics. If you're passing along information, how is that something that can be potentially stopped and avoided?
Well, it's information that shouldn't be available to the public, and it's information that shouldn't be available to NBA referees. Basically, you have a rule book, and you're supposed to enforce the rules as they're written in that rule book. You're not supposed to change those rules based on playoff games and based on names on the front and back of jerseys and based on who's up or down in a playoff series. You need to officiate the rules as they're written in the rule book and blow the whistle, with that in mind. And that's what happened the other night in the San Antonio game. Nobody wanted to blow the whistle and call a foul because it was a pivotal point in the game, and nobody wanted to hang their hat on the fact that they made a mistake. But by not blowing the whistle, they compounded it by 10 times.
But would it be your contention that the fact that they didn't blow it is because there's so much money riding on the game, or was it just a situation is they didn't want to have the stones to make that call and change the tide of the game? Forget about the gambling aspect.
You got to have the stones to make those calls in the last minute of a tight game, and you have to be sure that when you put air on the whistle that you're right. And, when I look at those officials on the floor, it was a bad combination of officials and Maurer, Davis, and Corbin. And, really none of them had the stones to put the air in the whistle. So it's cost the league, an embarrassment.
Getting a couple minutes with Tim Donaghy, former ref, 13 years in the NBA, roughly about 700-plus games called, 20 playoff games. Rich Quinones here, and, of course, Tim now with refpicks.com. You can get your NBA picks, your NFL picks, your college picks as well from a panel of experts. We talked about this, and I want to go back for a moment. When we spoke a couple years ago, after everything came out in the scandal and the 60 Minutes and the book and the this, that, the other thing, you brought up something that it kind of made my ears perk then. And I went back and I actually re-listened to the interview, and it made me think about something that transpired a couple years ago. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. You claim that the league office was really trying to push the refs to fix games between the Nets and Toronto, correct? Am I accurate?
I'm not saying fix, but you're accurate in saying that, in the course of doing an evaluation of tape and sitting down and telling the officials what to call and what not to call, yes, I felt like definitely Toronto was going to get the short end of the stick.
Okay, so I go back, and obviously we don't need to rehash the whole King series and whatnot, but it made me think right now with what's going on in the playoffs and the quote storylines. Curry's not available. Curry might be available for Game 3. You have OKC and you have San Antonio. You've got the Warriors doing what the Warriors are doing, trying to win back-to-back. And then, of course, if Cleveland gets past the Atlanta Hawks and then Miami gets past Toronto, then obviously it sets up Miami and Cleveland, LeBron against Miami, this, that, the other thing. Great storylines, right? Since the time you last blew the whistle in the NBA and everything transpired and you watched the game and you're handicapped in these games, we know that from a marketing standpoint, a media standpoint, a rating standpoint, the NBA wants to stretch out series. Okay, we all agree to that. But when you look at some of the potential storylines this year, do you think officials will be more inclined to blow certain whistles in certain stages of games to potentially have games go to 6 or 7 games just to stretch them out, just to get those ratings?
There's no doubt. What the officials do is they, don't want to be the one that sends a team home. So they give all the benefit of the calls that could go either way to that team that's down in the series. And that's the way that the NBA office wants the referees to look at it. Don't be the guy that sends this team home. If it go either way, give it to the team that's down in the series. This way, it can be taken care of in the next game.
Yeah, but how is that? To me, that's not a level or competitive play. That's not a level playing field.
That's what I've been screaming from the top of the mountain, and that's what I wrote about in the book Personal Foul, that teams are at an advantage and a disadvantage, and so are players, that the officials in the league want the officials to officiate the game based on the names on the front and the back of the jerseys rather than the rules and how they're written in the rule book.
Tim Donaghy joining us for a couple moments. Rich Quinones here, and again, a former NBA referee over 13 years, and now with refpicks.com. I had a caller the other day really bring up a great point, Tim. They said, listen, they get tired of watching the NBA because the special treatment to players. Look, you can go all the way back. It doesn't matter whether it was Bird, Magic, whether it was Jordan, then Kobe, then Reggie Miller with the leg kicks, or Iverson with the elbow, LeBron James now. When you ref, was there one player, I would assume it was probably Jordan, but was there one player that they were like, look, man, you got to swallow the whistle with him?
But no doubt. I mean, when you talk about somebody like Michael Jordan, you're definitely not calling hand checks and impeding progress fouls and delaying to set a tone for the game, because the older referees are telling you people paid $1,500, $2,000 to sit in that front seat, and they didn't come here to see him sit on the bench. So definitely, you're in a situation where if there's two people there, you're not giving that foul to Jordan. You're giving that foul to, Horace Grant or somebody else who's not the big name player on the team. And it's just a situation where, somebody like Jess Kersey, who was one of the top referees when I went into the league, he used to say to me, Jordan goes to the basket and he misses and there's a little bit of contact and you're not sure, blow the whistle. If he misses a shot, blow the whistle. And it was just as simple as that. That's the mindset that the older referees taught the younger referees.
Do you see it right now in the current NBA with, say, a Curry or even Kobe his last year in the league, or LeBron or Kevin Durant? Is it? I mean, look, you have more insight. You have the eye for it. Is it more blatant when you watch the games that, man, they get, that's a makeup call right there?
There's definitely makeup calls that have taken place. And, with the NBA, if the NBA was such on the up and up, you look at high school and you look at college, if 3 referees had a game as poorly as those 3 referees had in the Oklahoma City San Antonio game, they'd be done for the year. You wouldn't see them advance in the high school tournament. You wouldn't see them advance in the NCAA tournament. They'd be done for the year. These 3 referees, you're going to see them again. You're going to see them progress into the 3rd round, and you're going to see Maurer in the NBA Finals. No matter how poor of a game and a job he does, as long as he's doing what the NBA wants in these other games, he's going to continue to advance and get big bonus checks.
The fact that you can go and you can look at replays now, you can't. It's like the NFL. I said this again yesterday to a caller. You cannot go and look at a play over again if a flag is not thrown, right? There are certain plays in the NFL that you can throw the flag, some that you can review, some you can't. So that's kind of a moot point. But in the NBA, like the other night, once it's missed, it's missed. Now, the counter-argument is, hey, San Antonio stole the ball. They had to 3-on-1. Ginobili elected to kick it out to Mills, and he misses the 3, which I understand. But if there is a solution, if I say, okay, Tim, give me a solution how to clean up the officiating in the NBA, what would be the first step?
I think you got to advance the officials, especially in the playoff, based on how well they're doing and refereeing, just like they do in college. This thing of the same old guys, the same old crews, and everyone's going to advance last year no matter what. You got to be done with that. There has to be some ramifications for these officials not concentrating and not doing the job and missing calls that you're going to take money out of their pocket, and you're going to do that by, number 1, finding them, and number 2, not advancing them in the playoffs to where they're going to get the bigger bonus checks.
Do you speak to any current NBA referees?
I do.
Do you think they gamble on the games?
It's hard for me to say, and it's something that I don't really want to guess. If I had firsthand knowledge, I would tell you either way, but without firsthand knowledge, I don't want to make that, statement.
You still gamble?
No, I have the website, and through the website is, how I put out the picks and the plays because, quite frankly, I, crossed the line I shouldn't have been near, and it kind of got out of control. So I think I'm just good handling it this way.
It's a fair point. I do want to ask you one more, well, actually a couple more, because it is fascinating stuff. For people that don't gamble or weren't compulsive gamblers, I guess they don't understand. I made this point the other day. Like in the NFL, you bet the 1 o'clock games, right? The real gamblers, and when we call them degenerate gamblers, it's the guys that they'll throw everything, right, in the kitchen sink. They lose on a 1 o'clock. Then they want to make up that 4 o'clock game. Then they want to double up on that Sunday night and Monday Night Football. I'm just wondering, for a guy that's been there, who's dealt with it firsthand, what was it? What was it? Where was that juice? What was the satisfaction? Was it placing a big bet, winning the bet, losing the bet, trying to double up, trying to come back? What was it? What gave you that rush?
It was just the action, whether it was on the golf course, whether it was playing cards in the locker room or coming home and getting my buddy to place the bets on the NFL or NBA games. It was just constant action that I needed. I loved it. I got a euphoria from it. I love the casinos, blackjack. I love, gambling on every shot on the golf course. So it's just something that, basically controlled me.
How much of money has moved since Curry went down with that injury?
How much money has moved?
Yeah, in your estimation, from what you guys been taking on the site and some of your picks and whatnot, how much, as far as the line itself with Golden State, where maybe it was 15, they were 15-point favorite, and he's healthy, and then he goes down and he's not going to play. I mean, have you seen a major swing in the line?
No, because I think that the people that are doing that are not doing justice to themselves. I think Golden State's a good team, and we've seen that they can compete without him. He's just a piece to the puzzle, but he's not somebody like Michael Jordan when he wasn't playing with the Bulls. They have so many other people that can step up and score. I don't think that really should be affecting the line in the ways that it has been 2 or 3 points.
All right, take the gambling out of it. Take the fact that you were a former NBA ref. Is Golden State still the clear-cut favorite to win it all?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they just have a great team concept, and they have so many different weapons, and they just seem to share the ball extremely well, play team basketball. I think they're going to be tough to beat.
And just to reiterate, from your knowledge, you don't believe that any current NBA refs that you speak to gamble on NBA games that they officiate or watch as fans?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
All right. And what do you got going on with the site?
Refpicks.com. We have 10 handicappers that work for us, put an opinion out on everything from Major League Baseball to the NBA to the NFL and college football. So if you're looking to place a legal wager somewhere, you can get some good advice.
Tim, I always appreciate the candidness and the honesty, pal. Appreciate a couple moments.
Anytime, my friend.
All right, you got it. Tim Donaghy joining us for a couple moments.